Hey everyone, it's Stella Grizont doing a Work Happier Weekly from WUPA, where we help you work happier and live better because you spend most of your waking hours at work and we've got to make them count. So today I want to talk to you about a concept called flow. So you may have heard of the term flow. It was originally coined by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Say that three times fast, and it was described as an optimal state of mind for optimal performance. So when you're in the flow, you lose all track of time and space. You're in what's called like the deep now. You're not noticing what's happening around you. Maybe you go hours without eating or going to the bathroom. You're just so focused on what it is that you're doing. So musicians call this being in the pocket. Athletes call it being in the zone. You've probably experienced the sensation of being in the flow at some point in your life. And the thing about being in the flow is that it can happen in a conversation with a friend. It can happen when you're surfing, playing an instrument, working on a presentation, washing the dishes. So any of us can be in flow. It's accessible to all of us. And when we're in flow, what's so cool about flow is that our brain starts to change. So we get a massive dump of neurochemicals in our brain that actually help us focus better, be more creative, be more productive, learn faster. So there was a study done with McKinsey associates, I believe, or McKinsey executives, a 10-year study where they found their productivity, if when in flow, was up by 500% versus when they weren't in flow. And we know from other research that being in flow can help you be 400% more creative, help you learn 200% faster. So there's all these advantages. Plus, it just really feels cool because when you're in flow, you're not you're not focused on yourself. You're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about the future. You're purely in that deep now state, which means your ego, your inner critic turns off. And the reason why your inner critic turns off is because remember that massive dump of biochemicals I was talking about? What happens is your prefrontal cortex goes silent. And when our prefrontal cortex goes silent, that means the inner critic goes quiet. Future planning, executive decisions, that's the prefrontal cortex part of our brain. That's what it's in charge of. And so when it goes quiet, we can actually be focused. Our ego isn't getting in the way. It's not telling us what we can't do or what we're not capable of. And so we just keep charting forward and taking more risks. So this is juicy, right? Who doesn't want to be in the flow? Sorry. When I'm looking in the camera, it's like opposite. Anyway, so let me talk to you about some conditions that are necessary for getting into the flow state and what you can do to get into the flow more often. And by the way, we're not designed to be in the flow 100% of the time because you need time to rest and recuperate. But it is when you want to amplify your performance and get something done with awesomeness, you might want to try some of these things. So there's seven characteristics of flow. The first thing about flow that's really critical is that you have a balance of challenge to your skill set. So you can't get into the flow if you're not feeling challenged enough. In fact, researchers have found that it's important for you to be challenged at least about like 4% above what you're capable of. So it's not massive amounts of challenge because if you have too much challenge for not enough skill, you go into overwhelm and anxiety, right? But if you have too much skill and not enough challenge, you get into boredom. That's when you start to just disengage. You're like, ugh, why am I even doing this? Right. And so the sweet spot, the flow channel, is where we have just a little bit more challenge to the skill that we have. And so it's important to find that right balance. So you might want to think about your current situation and how you might adjust. Are you being overly challenged or underly challenged? And see what you can do. The other aspect of flow, what really gets us into flow, is when there's a little bit of risk involved. So, a little bit of risk. So, what's an example of a risk? It could be time pressure. It could be knowing that you have to present something to a lot of people. It could be if you're climbing a mountain, risking your life. So, there's all sorts of risks, right? And a little bit of risk really helps you focus and really helps you engage. So, think about how might you get you into that zone. Maybe it's setting a deadline, like I said. That always works for me. Another aspect of flow is that you get uh, clear and instant feedback. And this is a challenge for so many of us at work, is that we don't get clear and instant feedback from our coworkers or our managers all the time. And so often what happens when we don't have that feedback is that's when our inner critic starts to go off and be like, maybe I'm not doing such a good job. Maybe I'm not worthy of this position. Or maybe I'm not good enough. So, what's really important is to know, are you doing well and are you not? So, we have a whole Work Happier segment on how to ask for the appreciation and respect you deserve, and how to get feedback. So, Sean, I think I saw you on here. If you could link to that segment while we're here, that would be great for folks. So, it's important to get clear and instant feedback. So if you're a manager, you might want to think about when someone does something well, to be really specific and say, hey, Marianne, the way you presented that story was super concise and very compelling. And I found myself really leaning in, and I could tell everyone else was really engaged. Great work on that. So you're giving really specific feedback, you're giving it in a timely way, and you're sharing what's the impact of what you just witnessed someone doing. Equally, you want to let someone know, if you're managing them, how they didn't do something well. So this is the part where a lot of managers have trouble, is giving negative or constructive feedback. But think about it. If you're really looking to help your employees bolster their performance and grow, you also have to let them know immediately, oh, hey, you missed this on the status report, and here's why we need to do it this way. Can you make this correction for next week? Right? So you need to let them know what they're doing well and what they're not doing well, so that they know where they stand, right? Now for yourself, how might you create that instant feedback loop for yourself? So think about what will help you know if you're on the right track. Okay. So, another aspect of getting into the flow, and this is probably the biggest challenge for most of us, is having a clear field of concentration. So, being able to just focus on one specific goal and not being distracted. Now, with our phones, with our notifications, like I'm looking at my screen, things are popping up as I even talk to you guys. We have to clear all the distractions from whatever it is we're doing. And so that may look like you shutting your door in your office and saying, like, uh, working, focusing for the next 2 hours, please don't interrupt. Or it could be turning off all your apps or your browsers, or putting your phone on airplane mode. Some apps that might help you. There's an app called Focus, and you can go to heyfocus.com, and that can help you program sites that you want to block. So if you find yourself mindlessly going on Facebook or mindlessly going on Instagram, it will help you block those sites so that you're not mindlessly doing it. Another app is called Focus Bar, and that creates a bar that will come down on your screen and remind you of what you're working on. You know, sometimes when we're working on something, especially where we have a little bit of resistance to it, we'll just have this unconscious tendency to, like, go on a different website or go to the bathroom or grab a snack because resistance comes up. And so that can help you really remember, oh yeah, I need to work on this. So hopefully those apps can help you. And again, another thing you might want to try is the Pomodoro Method, where you time yourself, you give yourself, say, a 25-minute window of working on something, and then you break for 5 minutes, and then you work for another 25 minutes, and then you break for 5 minutes, and then you work for another 25 minutes, and then you break for like an hour, and then you repeat it. And so I like to do this when I'm writing or working on a presentation because it just really helps me concentrate. So give one of those ideas a try. So another cool thing about flow when you're in it is that there's this paradox of control, because what happens is you're totally surrendering into what it is that you're doing. And that surrender and that getting into the flow, that taking the next step and getting that feedback and then going further, that is a flow, but it's a surrender rather than I gotta make this happen. And the reason, again, why we have this paradox of control is because that prefrontal cortex kind of goes dim while we're in flow. And so we're able just to focus on what we're doing. And another aspect of flow is that we lose sense of time, like I mentioned to you, and the self vanishes. So I think the real challenge for all of us is, I think the sweet spot for us, if we want to create more flow in our lives, is probably to eliminate the distractions. So I would challenge you, when you have something you've got to work on, how might you just eliminate the distractions, block off your calendar, shut your door, set a timer, block all the browsers and apps that come up, and just allow yourself to focus. Sometimes when I do my writing, I'm working on a book proposal right now. The best way that I've been able to make progress is just to actually to book a whole weekend retreat and go somewhere else, pay for a hotel. Paying for a hotel is a little bit of a risk because I'm like, oh my God, I really have to be productive because I'm paying for this and I'm taking time away from my family. So I better make this happen. Um, and just having no distractions. So think about how might you eliminate distractions for yourself and for your team so that you can get into that optimal, juicy state of flow. So I hope this was helpful, you guys. And I wish you many, many moments of flow and productivity and just being in the zone for whatever it is that you want to do and be. And let me know what you guys think. And if you have any questions, if you want me to do more stuff on this. I was trying to share some slides today, but it wasn't working out. So I have to figure out how to share my slides with you so you can see some cool graphics and visuals alongside these things. But that will be coming hopefully in the next coming segments. Next week, we're going to talk about forgiveness. It's going to be next Wednesday is actually the Yom Kippur holiday, which is all about forgiveness. So I figured that would be a good juicy topic for next week. And then coming up later this month, I'll be giving a webinar for Happify.com, where I'll be talking about how to deal with imposter syndrome. So if that's something you're feeling, where you're feeling like a fraud or like you don't quite deserve to be in the position you're at, we're going to talk all about that. That's free and available to you. We'll send out the link in my newsletter. If you're not subscribed, you can go to whoopa.com and subscribe there at the bottom of the website. And then I'm going to be working with Cigna this month, and I worked with Etsy just last week. And I'm going to be working with a hospital to bring them the work happiness method in Florida. I'm really excited about that. So if you're looking for a speaker for your organization or your team, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about what we can do together. I'm already booking up 2020, which is so exciting. So let me know if there's anything I can help you with. And with that, if you like this video, give me a like, give me a love, share it with someone who could use it. And that's it, you guys. Have a great night. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.